are indeed comfortable as F. All right. Harris, we've got a new segment here on NFL Daily.
Oh, I love it.
It's draft time.
It's draft time.
It's draft time. A lot of mock drafts are starting to flow out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go from pick number 1 all the way down to pick number 10, talk about each team, what their positional needs are, and perhaps some targets that franchise may look at. Okay, so let's get into it. Number 1 here, the Cleveland Browns. And by the way, we are projecting the final records as well. So, we have the Browns finishing out 0-16, Harris.
Yes,
they're not going to win a game. They're going to get the number 1 overall pick. A team with a lot of needs here, but particularly the quarterback position.
A team that has a lot of need, but if you kind of look deep into their roster, this team has a lot of talent on it. The wide receiver position, we do have it as a team need when we get the draft card coming up in a little bit. But I'll put it this way. They do have talent at the wide receiver position. If they can bring Josh Gordon back, you have Gordon, you have Corey Coleman, you have a couple other guys on the outside. David Njoku's been really good at tight end this year. The offensive line is fine, as is the defensive line. But do you know what? This team just needs a leader. They need someone that can just take over a game.
Well, they need direction.
Yes, exactly. And I think, look, I think Hugh Jackson is the correct head coach for this football team. I do. But they need a tempo setter on offense. And I like DeShone Kizer. I think if DeShone Kizer went to any other team, they would have been more patient with him. Remember, he's 21 years old, Cam. He's younger than us, and he's starting in the NFL expecting to win games on the worst team in football. But look, you're telling me that Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen on this team couldn't win them 3 games, maybe 4 games? I really do think so. I think if the Browns are able to get Rosen or Darnold, they're going to get a bunch of wins next year. I think this team is primed for a nice upheaval. Remember, they do have another pick at number 6. Yeah, at number 6, they have the Houston Texans draft pick coming up as well to certify or to strengthen the back end of their defense, which needs a lot of help. But look, they have a good defensive line to build off of. Myles Garrett is an absolute monster. Danny Shelton is pretty good as well. Emmanuel Ogbah on the outside, when he comes back being healthy, is very good as well. Secondary, at least the corners are good, but they need a quarterback to win them games. Also, I'll say this much. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and I'm deciding who to take a quarterback, if he comes out, then, if he doesn't come out, then obviously you have to take Rosen. But if it's between Darnold and Rosen, take Sam Darnold. Take Sam Darnold. Take Sam Darnold. Look at the other quarterbacks in your division that have succeeded, okay? Big Ben, Joe Flacco, 6'6", 250, big guys. You're playing in the cold. You're playing in the East Coast in November and December. The last thing you need is to get a kid from Manhattan Beach who can't play in the cold. Get Sam Darnold, okay? The guy's thick. He is big. He can make moves with his legs. Get Sam Darnold.
All right, Jason chiming in. He has a different option here, Harris.
No.
Baker Mayfield action.
No. Jason, I respect it. I love Baker Mayfield as much as the next guy. In fact, if you go back to the first college football show that we had this year, I said that Baker Mayfield was going to win the Heisman Trophy. It was his to lose, and he won it. Baker Mayfield going to Cleveland would be the worst possible thing for both parties.
Wow.
Baker Mayfield going to Cleveland would be terrible. Warm weather, Big 12 quarterback, playing the AFC North. You're going to put him against the Baltimore Ravens to get the crap kicked out of him 2 times a year? No thanks. Sam Darnold.
Johnny Manziel situation.
Sam
All
Darnold.
Right, let's get to number 2 here. We've got the Giants projected to finish 3-13. They would get the number 2 overall pick. And I think, Harris, at some point, you got to start looking beyond the Eli Manning era. And we've got Darnold as a potential target, but also could go the Saquon Barkley route.
I think the Saquon Barkley route would actually be, personally, look at the teams in the NFL right now that are succeeding, that are playing really well. Ready? Minnesota Vikings, subpar quarterback, fantastic running game, great defense. Jacksonville Jaguars, subpar quarterback, fantastic running back, fantastic defense. The Saints, their running game, they amped it up this year, fantastic. We saw what happened to the Cowboys when they weren't able to run the ball. Even the Patriots this year have been able to run the ball better with Deion Lewis and Rex Burkhead. The NFL is shifting. Quarterback matters. But we have seen that in the modern-day NFL, if you have a good enough defense and you can run the ball well enough, you will win games against subpar teams. And I'm sorry. I am a true believer in Saquon Barkley. I know people have some issues with him, with what's he going to do with running between the tackles. The Giants' offensive line is awful, this and that. I get it. But what Saquon Barkley brings you is an incredible ability in the open field to make plays, to score touchdowns, and to really blow up an offense that they don't really have an option to do that outside of Odell Beckham Jr. I think Barkley would be a fine pick at 2, but at the same time, Davis Webb is not the answer. Neither is Geno Smith. A quarterback might also be the pick for them.
So Eli Manning has a trade clause in his contract. He needs to waive that if he does indeed want to leave New York. So really, it's up to him. Do you think he's ready to move on? And we do want the folks at home to weigh in as well.
No. I think I've always felt this about Eli Manning, that the only team he's ever going to play for is the New York Giants. If he comes to a point where the New York Giants have given up on him, I think he's going to retire.
Wow.
I don't think he wants to be a mercenary. I don't think he wants to go running around the NFL looking for Super Bowl rings. The dude won 2 Super Bowl rings already. The dude, as much as I despise to say this, is a certifiable Hall of Famer. I think that Eli Manning, if he does get let go of the Giants, I think he will be looked at by the Jaguars. I think he will be looked at by a couple teams. But I think Eli Manning, if he gets let go by the Giants, will retire. I think he wants to be a one-team quarterback.
All right, folks, throw in those comments. We got the Giants there picking at number 2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers check in at number 3. We have them projected to finish 4-12 on the campaign. They have a lot of needs on that defensive side of the ball.
Oh, boy.
Pass rush has been bad, Harris. Secondary's been bad as well.
I don't want to say there's a correlation to the Buccaneers and the Giants being the 2 teams that drafted tight ends in the first round and now being 2 and 3. I don't want to say there's a correlation there, but there might be a correlation there. If they are at 3 and they don't take Bradley Chubb, I seriously question what their front office is doing. I don't know how you could possibly mess that up worse than not drafting Bradley Chubb. Draft Bradley Chubb. You need a defensive end. He's the best defensive end in this class. He will do great things in the pass rush. He will be even better in the run game. He will be a fantastic option for them on the defensive side of the ball. The offense is good enough. The offense has enough talent. The offensive line, I actually think, is good enough to win games. But boy, oh boy, do they need help on that defensive line. They can't stop the run. They have 0 pass rush whatsoever. But I will say this. If they don't end up at number 3 and they do fall maybe 6 or 7, I think Derwin James would be a fantastic pick for them. Keep him in South Florida, or just, in Florida in general, if you want to call Tampa South, whatever. I'm not from Florida. But if you want to get someone on the back end of that defense who can really help you out, Derwin James would be fantastic. He'd roam the field, be a great free safety at that position. TJ Ward has been a massive, massive disappointment. And Chris Conte, I don't even know how that dude is still starting in the NFL. I think that either of these guys that we have as potential targets will be perfect fits for them. Go defense, Bucks. Draft someone on defense.
Minkah Fitzpatrick would be an interesting name as well.
All
right, so we got the Buccaneers at 3. Number 4, the San Francisco 49ers projected to finish 4-12 on the campaign. Team needs surround running back, wide receiver, corner.
Well, this, to me, I truly believe that this San Francisco 49ers team is the most interesting bad team that we have in the NFL. Because let's face it, they're not very good right now, but they have Garoppolo. They have a great head coach. The front office seems to have a good head on their shoulders when it comes to dealing around assets and understanding what creates a quality football team. The defensive line is good enough to build around. The secondary needs a lot of work, but do you know what they have that a lot of teams don't? They have a piece in the middle of their defense to build around. They have their Luke Kuechly. Reuben Foster has proven that he will be a star in this league. He is an absolute monster in the middle of that defense. 5th-ranked linebacker according to Pro Football Focus. He is stellar. The fact that he fell to 32 is the biggest steal in the last draft by far, not even close. Don't care what you say. Reuben Foster falling to 32 is an absolute crime. That dude should have been on 6 other teams. I don't know how the Oakland Raiders didn't draft the slam dunk superstar middle linebacker over the cornerback who had a rape allegation against him. Not a great draft pick if you ask me. But this San Francisco 49ers team, to me at least, is one more offensive piece away from maybe making the playoffs. I think if this team ends up with Saquon Barkley and they sign a wide receiver in the offseason, or they get Minkah Fitzpatrick, bring back Carlos Hyde, and again, draft a wide receiver or sign one in the offseason, this might be a wild card team next year. I'm a wholehearted believer in Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm a wholehearted believer in that offensive and defensive line. I really think that they are a couple pieces away from being a playoff team.
You know, Harris, you're not crazy which is odd for me to say to you, by the way, because I do think there's an argument to be made. An offseason, a full offseason with Jimmy Garoppolo and Shanahan talking it out and understanding the offense together. I like this Trent Taylor kid.
He's good. He's
this
a good
rookie wide receiver. Goodwin has speed on the outside. We'll see what they do during the draft to help the offense out.
Pierre Garçon is still coming back next year. And by the way, Pierre Garçon and Jimmy Garoppolo are a match made in heaven. The exact kind of routes that Pierre Garçon runs, whether it's short or intermediate routes, quick timing routes, is Jimmy Garoppolo's bread and butter.
By the way, most people think you're crazy.
They can call me crazy. That's fine. But I'll put it this way. If Saquon Barkley ends up being who we think he is and you put him on the 49ers, that offense all of a sudden becomes one of the most fun and interesting ones in the NFL, and they draft some good defensive pieces at the end of the draft. I'm telling you, people, this 49ers team is building their team correctly.
All right, let's move on to our next team here, the Indianapolis Colts, picking at number 5.
Where to begin?
Projected to finish 4-12 on the campaign. It's offensive line, it's defense, it's a lot of things.
Man, this team needs Reuben Foster, is what they need. They need Reuben Foster to be in this draft. I understand why they took Malik Hooker last year. They really need a leader in that secondary. And mind you, he might have been on his way to being the defensive rookie of the year before he went down. He was fantastic. He is a stellar player. He will be fully healthy for the start of the year, and I think he'll make a full recovery. I think that Minkah Fitzpatrick would be a perfect fit for this Colts team. I think that the offense is actually decent enough with Andrew Luck to make an impact and to actually win a couple games for them. But boy, is that defense bad. That defense is horrible. It might be the worst defense in all of football. But I will say this. Quenton Nelson is a game changer on that offensive line. They have Frank Gore. They have Marlon Mack. They need to protect Andrew Luck. I really do think that Quenton Nelson could end up being a really tight player for this Indianapolis Colts team, especially on an offensive line that, I mean, who they starting at left guard right now? I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name.
Joe Haig.
Joe Haig, the guy on the left side, Mike Vujovic. Like, I don't even, Jeremy Vujanovic. Like, get a guard. Like, this team needs to rebuild the offensive line, but I think you got to go Minkah Fitzpatrick. I really think you got to go Minkah Fitzpatrick. Get the certifiable stud in the secondary and pair him with Malik Hooker.
All right, NFL Draft, April 26, 2018. That actually does not seem too far away,
no,
let me just say.
And guess what? If you want any and all NFL draft, when it comes to mock drafts, rankings, stay here. The Chat Sports, go like our NFL by Chat Sports page. We will have all of your draft content, all of the rankings, mock drafts, everything. We'll lead the way with it. Tom Downey, by the way, one of the 15 best mock drafters in all of the United States of America. So come at us.
Absolutely. Gotta love it. Many thanks to Tom for his great work here at Chat Sports. We're continuing on in our order here. So we went through 1 through 5. Let's go to number 6 here. So it would be the Houston Texans until they traded away that pick and gave it to the Cleveland Browns. So we have the Texans finishing at 4-12 on the year. The Browns get the pick at number 6. And for the Browns, well, they could go to perhaps a Saquon Barkley route. But you like Ridley, you like Fitzpatrick here for the Cleveland Browns.
I do. And by the way, the projected record that we have up there is the Houston Texans, who, mind you, the Cleveland Browns are taking their pick. So I'll put it this way. If you're the Cleveland Browns, oh my goodness, are you hoping and praying that Minkah Fitzpatrick falls to you? Can you imagine a draft class in the first round of Sam Darnold and Minkah Fitzpatrick for the Cleveland Browns? Hoo boy. Hoo boy, Cam. That is exactly what the Cleveland Browns would need. But I will say this. If Josh Gordon leaves, Calvin Ridley would not be an awful pick. They need to get their quarterback an option on the outside, and this draft class on defense, at least in my opinion, is pretty deep, especially in the secondary. I think that the Cleveland Browns, if they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, you're happy because he can do everything that Jabril Peppers can't and more. And he can play corner. He can play like the little linebacker position that we've started seeing a lot of corners play. He can play deep safety. He can play strong safety. He can really play anywhere that you need him to with that great Alabama coaching. I think that Minkah Fitzpatrick would be a fantastic pick. But watch out. Calvin Ridley, still an option, but quarterback is need number 1 for the Browns. Deshaun Kaiser isn't the guy.
All right, so Cleveland picking at number 6 there as we project the Houston Texans to finish 4-12. Cleveland would get that pick. All right, next up, the Chicago Bears finishing 5-11 on the year. They could use some offensive line help, particularly in the
interior.
but the wide receiver position really thin for them too.
Yeah, no, look, they need a tackle. They really, really need a tackle. They really, really need a guard. But, man, do they need a wide receiver. This whole offense needs help. The great thing, though, for the Chicago Bears is that they don't need to keep spending high draft picks on defensive players anymore. They don't. The defense is pretty good. The defensive line is good enough. Akeem Hicks is a great piece on that defensive line. Leonard Floyd, when he's healthy, has been pretty stellar this year. Eddie Jackson on the back end of that defense has been just fantastic this year as well. And Kyle Fuller is having a great reclamation season. He was really bad last year, but has been playing really well this year. Brother of Kendall Fuller,
there you go.
Actually. But they need offensive help. I think Connor Williams could be a really great player to pair with Mitchell Trubisky. You put him on his blind side, and all of a sudden you have a great left tackle quarterback combo for years to come. But if you're the Chicago Bears and you see Calvin Ridley on the board, listen.
He'll be there, I think.
Do not draft him. I get it. You need a wide receiver. Don't do it. You already saw this play happen before you. You already did this with Kevin White, and look what happened.
Oy.
You can draft good wide receivers outside of the first round, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of them. Anthony Miller from Memphis is going to go in the second round, would instantly be the best wide receiver on the Chicago Bears. Instantly, without a question. Go offensive line. I think Mike McGlinchey from Notre Dame, the tackle, would be a great option there as well. I think Quenton Nelson, the guard, also from Notre Dame, he's on the board, could also be the pick. I don't think he's going to be there at 7, but if Quenton Nelson is on the board at 7, I think they'll take him.
Okay, so the Bears at 7. At number 8, the New York Football Jets finishing at 5-11 on the year. They have a good young defense, could improve the edge position, but really it's all eyes on the quarterback position right now.
It is, and hey, you know what? Pour one out for Josh McCown, who somehow dragged a bad Jets team to 5 wins. I don't know if they're
now he is done for the year.
He is done for the year with a broken hand. I don't know if they're going to get any more wins without him, but hey, good for you, Josh McCown. You really did some big things this year. Would it not be the most Jets thing ever to reach for Josh Allen, who, mind you, is Christian Hackenberg with a smaller name?
It would be quite very Jets-like.
It would be the most Jets thing ever. And I think that's the problem, is that this Jets team is going to try to make a big-time step next year and try to make a run for the playoffs, but they need to understand that the way that they've been building this team is they've actually been doing a good job. I think that Leonard Williams and Muhammad Wilkerson are good pieces. They need an edge guy. I think Arden Key would be nice. They have a couple good pieces at the linebacker position, and then Jamal Adams and Marcus May at the back end of that defense, I think are going to end up being a great combo in terms of the safety position.
Just needs time, yeah.
Just needs time. You know, Jamal Adams was, a lot of people had him coming out as a generational safety prospect, and give him time. I think he will end up being that kind of player. Marcus May is also pretty fantastic. If they can bring back Morris Claiborne, who's been pretty good this year as well, that'd be a good pick for their defense. But don't reach for a guy unless you are certain. Unless you are certain, do not reach for him. I will say this. I didn't have him on there because there's no way the Jets would take him. But let me tell you, Lamar Jackson would be a pretty fun pick. Oh, boy.
All right. And with that, let's go to number 9 now, the Cincinnati Bengals. I've got them losing out because they just can't win a game, it seems, when even they're bad teams.
Tackle, 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 tackle. If you take literally anybody that isn't an offensive tackle, the whole front office should be fired. Fire them. Connor Williams, tackle from Texas. Mike McGlinchey, tackle from Notre Dame. Orlando Brown, tackle from Oklahoma. You have 3 quality first-round tackles. Take one and put him at left tackle and protect Andy Dalton. It is embarrassing what they've tried to do with the left tackle position in the past couple years. Jake Fisher is not good. Not good. Draft Connor Williams if he's on the board. There's literally no reason not to do it. Cedric Ogbuehi, or I can never say his name. He is also really bad.
Andre Smith has had a fall from grace, by the way, in his play.
Yeah, because guess what? He got paid and stopped trying. Look, stop it with the shenanigans. Why did they draft a wide receiver 9th overall? Let me ask you quick, Cam. Was this Bengals team a wide receiver away from making it farther in the playoffs last year? No. They were an entire offensive line away from making it farther in the playoffs last year. Please draft a tackle. Please. Please draft a tackle.
Okay, Cincinnati, it sounds like they have a need at tackle.
Please.
according to my projections
Please.
there. Okay, so they're at number 9. Let's wrap up with number 10, the Denver Broncos, finishing 5-11 on the year. They have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. None of them are the answer, Harris.
Baker Mayfield, please.
You got him down there.
Baker Mayfield, please. Like, first of all, I need to stop. All right. The NFL media needs to stop comparing Baker Mayfield to Russell Wilson. Stop it. He's not. No one is Russell Wilson. No one will ever be Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson might be one of the 20 to 25 best athletes that the NFL has ever seen. Baker Mayfield is not the level of athlete that Russell Wilson is. He's just not. But what Baker Mayfield will bring to you, he will bring you a leader on the offensive side of the ball. He will bring you someone who can throw a nice deep ball. He will bring you someone who can make plays with his legs. And he will bring you someone who can get the ball to Demaryius Thomas. Stop. Trevor Siemian is a 7th-round pick out of Northwestern. Paxton Lynch has been a complete bust and he can't stay on the field.
How about that pick 6 right there?
It's all bad. Like, I remember coming into the year. Do you remember coming into the year where we started hearing all the great things? Oh, John Elway thinks that Trevor Siemian is the answer at quarterback. And everyone just laughed. Because of course they laughed. It's Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian played 4 good teams last year and got wiped out by all of them. Draft a guy with big play experience. Draft a guy who knows what it's like to play in big games. This is my big thing when I wanted the Rams to take Carson Wentz over Jared Goff. Carson Wentz went to like 4 consecutive championship games when he was playing in college. Jared Goff played at Cal and barely played in a bowl game. Baker Mayfield is about to play in the playoff and has played in multiple massive games on national television before. You need experience doing that. You think Josh Allen has played in those kinds of games before? No, he hasn't. Baker Mayfield will be a great fit with this Broncos team. He is worth the reach. Please take him to make me happy. Please.
They got problems on the offensive line as well,
Yes.
Harris, especially in the interior. They're not winning at the line of scrimmage. They're not running the football effectively. So Denver, it's all offense for them this year in terms of the big-time needs.
I'm sorry. The Broncos with a better quarterback this year win the AFC West.
They probably have a more
Easily.
motivated defense.
Yeah. You can make an argument that a Broncos team with a good quarterback might be the 3rd best team in the conference. That's just me.
All right, so let's take a look at the top 5 in our projected draft order. We got Cleveland, New York, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, and Indianapolis. And then 6 through 10, Cleveland getting their pick from Houston. And then you have Chicago, New York, Cincinnati, and the Denver Broncos.